Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Stellaris Let's Play. You folks are taking care of each other and being kind to yourselves. For those new to my channel, welcome. For those returning, welcome back. For the new folks, disabled on COVID, I don't always think the most quickly. I forget stuff. I get distracted easily. I apologize for that. I'm trying my best to provide entertainment for you guys to hopefully get my channel to where I can monetize it, and not only monetize it, because when you first monetize it's not much, make enough money that hopefully, at least with SSI, which I have too much in savings for now, but hopefully when be able to collect when I have little enough, hopefully I can at least survive until maybe someday there's a cure for long COVID, or a country someday, many years down the line, accepts refugees in the United States, the political situation continues deteriorating, or something. I don't anticipate there being a cure anytime soon, because it's not a priority of the government. It could be done quickly, but it won't, because apparently more than 14 million Americans suffering from a disease is not a good reason to invest in curing it, with like a quarter being fully disabled and half being at least partially, and affecting the quality of life of even the people who aren't sick to the point of being disabled, but may still be less productive at work, may have more sick days, that kind of thing. Or even just have annoying things like Tim Kaine, who has long COVID, gets like a tingling in his hands that won't go away. And buzzing his ears. That's about the most minor possible symptom set that anyone with long COVID could get. I think he's got one other symptom. He's got 3 symptoms, which you have to be considered long COVID. You have to have at least 3 off the list. But he's got an exceedingly mild, case. Whereas I have a huge list of symptoms and a lot more severe than that. Thankfully, I'm not as sick as the people who can't even get out of bed. I mean, there are people who are like bedridden. Some have even needed feeding tubes. It can get that bad, and it can get worse too. There have been people who are up and about, like at my level, and then they got reinfected one too many times, and they ended up on a feeding tube, and in some cases died due to long COVID. That's how bad and lethal a disease it can be, and yet the government is not prioritizing it. Anyways, hopefully that doesn't happen to me. I would say I often have bad luck, but it's always bad, but never so catastrophically bad. My luck has always been, I don't buy the argument there is no luck, because there's no other way to explain some of the things that have happened to me, honestly. My luck's always been in the middle ground of, not the middle ground, bad, but never quite a point it's kill me. And in fact, when something little spot of good luck will always happen to pull things back from the edge in my life. If things are going in a really bad direction, it's just yeah, a life with a lot of suffering due to bad luck, from having abusive parents growing up, having some bits of good luck that made it a survivable situation, where I mean, some people have it so bad that they like don't want to live or whatever. I never, fortunately. I mean, I had some good things like teachers who were role models who, then I found the escape of school and became quite academic and intellectual in an early age. If I didn't have the escape, who knows how my life would have gone. But, it's still difficult life. Quite so. Anyhow. Who knows? Well, it could always get worse anytime. I did want to say, I hate purging in this game. It is, honestly, it's a sign of a unskilled or new or whatever player at best. And then there's some like neo-Nazi types who do it because they're racist pigs who want to like genocide people in real life. But those players have largely stopped playing Stellaris, thankfully. The community basically let them know they weren't welcome, but for a while, there were a number of years where there were a lot of them. They were Warhammer players as well, and what happened is Warhammer made it known that neo-Nazis were not welcome in their ranks, and those people stopped playing Warhammer, stopped playing Stellaris, and went and found other niches. Unfortunately, some of those niches became politics. Those people are still around, they just found other interests. Anyways, it's not like they chilled or decided they were wrong, unfortunately. They stopped being gamers, a lot of them. If you say conquer a hive mind or a Norman Parnavis bunch of pops, even if they're all unemployed, or well, in this 4 point whatever, now there's not really unemployed pops. Even if they're all civilians, if they're unemployed, they'll turn to civilians in like a few months, and that produces a bunch of trade value for you. So unless it's hive mind pops, in which case you can put them in a zoo, get zookeeper jobs, which they're actually like super biologists. They provide more society research than biologists, and some amenities. And then the pops in the zoo also provide amenities without consuming any, if I remember correctly. And I don't remember if the pops in the zoo also add society research to the zookeepers. They might, but yeah, you could do that, and then eventually, basically like uplift the hive mind pops that are sapient. Or it requires the mutation ascension path though, or you can take the exploit approach, do a slave process and center, and take these essentially non-sapient, like pre-sapient pops, and force them to work in your minds. But they're always useful. And if you look at the cost of manufacturing an equal number of robots, you're way better off, even if it takes you 30 years before you can put the pops to use. You're way better just feeding them, or 40 or 50 even. Partly because Empire growth scaling means the effective cost of manufacturing robots goes up. I don't know if they're directly affected by the growth scaling. Some stuff, my Molbots game, they didn't see that effect right at the beginning. I don't think I have enough pops yet, but even if they aren't, each robot you produce adds your pop count, makes biological pops grow slower, so it effectively becomes more expensive the more pops you have to manufacture robots. In that, they are displacing an organic pop that could have grown, making the whole curve worse. Or you could, I mean, the math might be a little different than the modifier directly applying them, but they do indirectly make it worse. And of course, so yeah, in Stellaris it means you're bad at the game if you feel the need to purge. You haven't planned. In real life, it means the same for empires, because people are the basis of a nation's workforce. And those who do it, they're hateful, spiteful people, or nations, or whatever ideologies, like obviously the Nazis, just hateful, evil, or they have an ideology that they can't freaking win any, can't stand on its own 2 feet, would lose in any honest debate, can't convince people to follow it because it's a bad ideology, so it relies on mass murder to try and cow people. And that, my friends, is what the United States has done repeatedly since 1970. In fact, part of the reason the U.S. won the Cold War is by making use of death squads and mass murder to cow people into going along with its ideology. The Indonesian genocide, the East Timor genocide, the Bangladeshi genocide was an attempt at this that failed, and the Guatemalan genocide, all examples of some group that had an ideology that was resisting the U.S., and so they went and just Guatemalan genocide, there were U.S. aid officials involved. Indonesian East Timor, it was a puppet state that the U.S. very directly controlled. Just mass murder people. Let's not even consider the stuff that wasn't to the level of genocide, but was still mass murder, like Pinochet. Augusto Pinochet was a U.S. puppet in Chile, who they say helped pave the way for taking control and replacing an elected socialist government. And in South Korea, where the military dictatorship there made use of death squads, disappeared a ton of people in the night. We sit there and say North Korea is so oppressive, but for a long time South Korea was more oppressive than the North. That only really reached an inflection point around the time the Soviet Union was collapsing and the North Korean government became a lot more oppressive and the South Korean government became a lot less, because it's easy to be generous when you're winning, and it's sometimes nations develop a siege mentality. And indeed, the North Korean government did manage to hold on even after the Soviet Union collapsed, but there was mass starvation due to the Soviet Union's collapse and the loss of their main trading partner. But yeah, death squads, murder in the night. There's just look up the School of the Americas if you don't know what I'm talking about. The U.S. has trained countless death squads. And why? Because it can't convince people to go along with capitalism, ordinary people, because they correctly look at it and say, that's going to make me poor, that's going to make me oppressed, that's going to cause me to die homeless on the street. Indeed, even Americans are dying homeless on the street now. Americans, citizens, dying homeless on the street. Sometimes veterans, sometimes disabled people. At the rate things are going, because housing assistance lines are so freaking long, and SSI doesn't cover the rent anymore. A lot of disabled people won't be able to make ends meet, especially as employment becomes harder and harder to find, and there's discrimination against hiring disabled people. They can't pay the rent. They can't keep a roof over the house. They end up homeless. And people with disabilities are even less likely to be able to survive in that situation than someone who's healthy and just doesn't want to work or whatever nonsense. Because, like long COVID, I have extremely depleted energy. If I was out on the street, it would be much harder for me to even find the energy to try and scrounge for food or something. I would end up dead, no question. And my body is less able to deal with physical stress. I die. And it would be the system murdering me, because I didn't want to support someone who was disabled, even though it wasn't my fault, and it was the system's fault for mishandling the COVID pandemic. So, anyways, best thing I can do, try and get this YouTube channel. If I can somehow get it to make money, I can survive. So, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I apologize for talking quite so long. I wanted to do another video not long after my last one, because I'm a bit of a role in terms of understanding what I'm doing, but I, of course, then got sidetracked and talked. Because sometimes I spend a lot of time just sitting and trying to figure out what my next move is, and here, I don't really need to do that. Because I still remember, which is rare with my own COVID, that I remember it all. Anyways, special project completed. The team under Science Officer Ernst Klein, who was, I believe, no, that's Ramirez. It's one of my carefree scientists, I'm sure of that. Drew Klein. Here we go. The carefree roamer. This guy has finished their expedition on Liz Dyer 2. That was over here. He did an expedition there and returned to the ISS Hubble. Sadly, the wrecked starships, that was the Starship Graveyard project, on the surface were too badly damaged to recover any useful technologies. These vessels were clearly very advanced, however, and we could gain valuable engineering insights if we analyzed the way they were designed. So, there's a deposit to build a research station over the world. We should consider the construction of a permanent science outpost in orbit. He gains a bit of experience. This thing gets a modifier, so it's this flavor really, and an engineering deposit, which means research deposits can be, research stations can be built there. Actually, to do research districts, habitats do need deposits, so there's a lot more research districts if there were habitat here, which there's a planet in this system, so it might be worth it. This one's got exofungus as well. This plant's got some minerals. The reason I mention minerals is because the food can also... So, there's no way to really get minerals except from planets. So if a plant's got a lot of mining districts, it's especially worth, settling, developing. There's astro mining bays from habitats, but you can never add that many. Habitats are very limited in space, which is obnoxiously a problem. Best way to get minerals is, of course, mining on a planet. Now there's prospectorium, strip mines, which turn ag deposits and the mining ones, and then there's also galactic community type things, and there's a normal strip mine. Those ones lower habitability in exchange for increasing mine district limit. So yeah, pretty much any world can host a substantial number of mines. So yeah, if you had a world with almost no mine districts, though, some might argue for planet cracking on an uninhabited world and building a ring world if it's only got one sun. Binary and trinary and black hole systems, you can't do that. They can't have ring worlds regardless. But it's dire. This would be a place to settle, and therefore habitat is the only way to add additional living space in that system. Since ring worlds, though, they have enormous space and give you all the food and energy you could ever need from generator and farming districts, or lots of trade. They're not a great source of minerals. Even if you're running workers' cooperatives, it's hard to get much of a surplus of minerals. I mean, well, yeah, no, actually, if you run Xenophile and bring pop-up, keep down to 10%, I suppose you could have. Let's say, otherwise you might need a mix of lithoid and non-lithoid pops even to just make a profit off civilians, because the minerals are not being used for pop-up, keeping your selling or something. It's not going to be very efficient. And the part of workers' cooperative trade value that isn't turned into other things you need to buy consumer goods with, since they don't actually consumer goods from trade. And give me a second. Yeah, I like to, I was just checking the time also here. I like to think too often of how I can do like a really late game. How many pops can I get? My computer doesn't seem to be affected by pop count and slow down as much as some people whine. Honestly, I think they go and they play multiplayer like 6 people, and then they think it's the pop count. I mean, what it really is the multiplayer protocols and their internet connection, maybe. But mostly, like, data is being exchanged to all the different computers, and maybe they need a more powerful processor, or probably exponentially more powerful. But in single player, I've never noticed. I doubt there are really that many issues with pops causing lag. That's, I'm reasonably certain, a myth. That people, I mean, that you do get late game lag, but it's not actually due to pop count. People have done experiments, indeed, that have shown that you don't see more than a 4% speed difference. Which, when it's very slow, it's maybe the difference between ungodly slow and ungodly slow slightly worse. It's not. No, with the things that cause lag are not pop count. Some of it's sloppy codes, events that keep trying to fire over and over and over, which the devs have occasionally. Like, they said there was nothing like that, and then they actually put in like some of the updates. Oh, we fixed something like that. It's absolutely clear that they're just being dishonest to cover for managers who don't want to invest in really doing quality assurance until the devs, until they actually did approve it, clearly, or though some people did it on their own time or whatever, and then, you know, because I think the devs take pride in their work. So I'm trying to say it's the management. It's always the freaking management class that's the problem. It's one of the many reasons I don't have much respect for these like business finance types. They're literally just society's managerial class, and their real role is not to make the economy more efficient. It's to make it work for increasing the profits of a select few at the top. So they could do something that literally harms most of society more than it helps the billionaires. But if it helps the billionaires at all, it will more than, you know, their wages, whatever it is, and then it will absolutely be done. The Tale of Night. Bekazew's Way 20. Honor is all. As the night ship entered, the unstable wormhole swirled and grew large. The crossing was tumultuous, and within their vessels, the party was tossed about like leaves in a furious torrent. They weren't torn apart if it's a wormhole. I don't have wormhole stabilization tech. Colliding, 2 of the ships suffered critical damage. But soon it was over, and the knights found themselves bathed in the light of unfamiliar stars. They arrived in front of a station where the stranger's ship was docked. The lavishly decorated hallways were empty and quiet. The walls were covered in exotic weapons, alien armor, foreign shields, and hollow banners. Trophies not unlike those adoring the Order's keep. Knight's Orders, you know. A heavy layer of dust made it easy to follow the tracks of the stranger. They led the knights to a massive door, beyond which lay the station's great hall. The place had been set for a sumptuous banquet, but now only the detritus of the feast remained. The sea guests were silent and unmoving. The tracks led to the place of honor, where the stranger was seated. Their helmet lay open, revealing a bleached skull. In their skeletal hand was an empty tankard, lifted in eternal toast. So, yeah, you do find out if you actually don't recover the armor later, you actually find out what happened there. It's not worth not taking the armor, honestly, at this point. All you do is avoid a temporary negative modifier later. But, basically, the Sable Knight's order was poisoned by the trickster. Somehow he must have pumped poison into their air or put it in their food or something, and they all died. And there's some kind of time travel weirdness with the wormhole, so a lot of time passed and between the knights falling, even though it was only a few hours. It's weirdness, sci-fi weirdness. The writing is a little sloppy in terms of letting you know exactly what happened, even if you see the hints later. Anyways, Iron Royal Plant states, beyond the value for our knights, recover and stay in Neutronium armor. We must pierce the secrets, or leave. Pilfering armor for dead knights is on shipless. Who knows what manner of curse lingers on this place? Not a curse, but again, you avoid nothing. Beyond its value for our knights, we can also build a civilian version and protect workers from extreme environments. Removes the pestilential wasteland from Hesek and adds reclaimed pestilence. So +1 max districts instead of -1. So it's actually effectively 2 new districts in Hesek. If I read that right. And 15% resources from jobs on the homeworld. And it used to be this added night jobs to the homeworld, which was never great because you don't have a lot of squires there. But now it adds them to the knight's keep. The order's keep. So, which is actually into the building, the order's keep. So it might even be passed on to successor empire, even though the knight modifiers to output might not. Who knows? Since it's modifying a building and not the empire itself. Recover and stay in neutral armor. We must pierce its secrets. Yep. I now have 2 available districts. So I have 10, 5, 1, 1. Getting to the point of having 17 and some ramp to 19. You get a size 20 planet. It's not always 20, but it's a little bit larger. 20, I think, is the largest you can get, so I rolled well, thankfully. No, actually, I think you can get up to 21, but it's definitely on the larger side for the Knight's homeworld, which is usually bigger. I think when you do ocean worlds, it tends to be on the bigger side, but I don't know. It could just be my, small sample size. It probably is that. But yeah, once they remove the Genesis Preserve by uplifting, I'll have 19 available districts, and then there's just -1 from Venom Seas, which I'll just say later when I fight when I get tricked by the trickster the first time, which is actually worth it versus a modifier. It just makes knights not have alloy upkeep. Used to be given empire-wide modifier from knights jobs to improve alloy production, which was actually really good because if you had enough metallurgists, that was worth more in their own upkeep, but not anymore. So probably end up removing the Venom Seas thing and have fully healed the homeworld. In fact, have Well, there is the swarms of the deity thing. Do I end up removing that? I don't know. Still, more districts than if I hadn't. Let me just check. Yeah, this, sorry, the VMCs to get rid of, but swarms might be the only one I don't get rid of. It gives an no, it gives an empire-wide modifier. What am I saying? It says, the wiki is kind of confusing. Yeah, like makes the deposit give an empire-wide strikecraft attack speed. But it is an alternative to adding unity or research to the night jobs. Where was the one? I think I took toxins most. Did we? It's since there actually aren't any repeatables that add to weapon damage. I think they just had the base damage of like lasers and such. So I think that's, I don't know. Yeah, I might just go for the Empire thing. I'm not sure what happens to the border habitat when if you end up as another Empire controlling this, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Knights go back to their base output, assuming that you still get as many Knights. It might be the strongholds at least convert to soldier jobs, and you only get whatever this does, which isn't nothing. It's like 10 Knight jobs in the old pop system. But it's another of add 2 Knight jobs or increase the... I don't know. Doesn't say what makes the squires. It's going to be weird. I've never actually seen... I don't know. If many players actually know what happens when the orders keep, because most of the time I think they're playing as knights and players rarely get their homeworld conquered. I don't think many people have conquered a knight system and actually seen if their system is any good and if the production reverted. The easiest way to do that would be to vassalize the Knights Empire, and then you can see what they're producing right before you annex them. Let me just... You know what? I want to see this, and it might be cool to show you guys. I'll probably forget later. I'm not going to do this for good, but if I create a vassal, Dijmar... No, it doesn't really matter. The Dijmar Prospectorium. I didn't see a button to play as or something. I guess that's a Hearts of Iron thing. I was sworn there was a play as when releasing. But apparently not. Oh, freaking well. Harmonious Collective, Archprophetess. There's Drew, Fleet Organizer. Interesting. Well, I guess it's shenanigans then. Swearing there was a legit way to play as them, or air quote legit. You can still load a single player save as a multiplayer save. If you do a multiplayer, anytime you load it up, you can, what I've seen, be able to pick what empire you're playing, so you don't have to always play as the one you were. Well, it's shenanigans, because then the only way, I guess, to legit switch empires is to stimulate an AI rebellion, which I definitely wouldn't mind becoming an individualist machine empire, but I'm more likely to end up as a Gestalt, and I'd rather not do a Gestalt. I don't know. Probably. I don't. Maybe not. Maybe I'll play as a as a Gestalt and see if I can't release an individualist vassal and then plays them later. Do all sorts of shenanigans. Maybe I just missed the checkbox or something. I didn't see a play as thing. Well, you're probably like, I didn't see that. I guess I was thinking of in Hearts of War where you can definitely do that. Although it usually is just upping the difficulty of the game because I'm nations that can release vassal, unless you're already like well, not even if you mostly won the game, then you're probably fighting your super self unless you fragment your country first. It can be an interesting thing to do, I suppose. It's not usually meta. Maybe as France, if you really saw Sultania very early game at the start. France has a ton of negative spirits, and then just make a quick ideology flip and take down France. And basically unify the country under an Occitanian government. I suppose that could be done. But yeah, generally speaking, not meta on that game. Well, it'll be shenanigans. It'll be shenanigans because I feel like it partly. Because I think it might be interesting. Alright. And when someone being incessantly loud on their phone. God, I swear, it's like... It's intentional. This guy is just trying to be annoying. And maybe it is. Maybe somehow inadvertently offended him, or you never know. Some people just enjoy being noxious to others. But there's a noxious trait in this game. There's people like that in real life who get pleasure in some people. Probably just in consideration or thoughtlessness. Say it's not intentional at all, but hey, that's actually the right order. I think that was from Survey System. It's the right order of surveys. Maybe I did actually queue that up. I don't know. Just looking around at some of what I've got queued up. Why can't I see in the next system over here? It must be in a nebula cloud or something. Alright, finish the generator district. And I want to get ready on automating because I don't actually have labor to work it. And it's some secondus. Why have these guys not promoted to... There's lots of researcher jobs. I think way too much. It's probably I need to build speed a little. Anyways, right in on energy generation. So I can add automation buildings and an energy grid and such. We'll take production yard, energy grid, that. There's stuff to do. Technicians. You know what? And of course they promoted up there. I actually need technicians rather more than a... Oh, I can just do this in... Rather more than I need researchers, I need technicians. These are probably the right researchers to run, though. Engineering bonus, physics bonus, and there's of course society. This physics bonus isn't huge though. I'm just gonna disable the physicist jobs. So biologists, engineers. You know what? Oh, and on the engineer jobs, the reason being I can build xenobiology labs. I don't have them here, so these are less efficient biologists still. But I can't build materials labs, and this planet has a nice modifier to engineering output. So it's engineers and technicians for new pops. Sometimes pops. Wait, didn't I disable migration? These. Yep, migration controls enabled. Should put on robots in case I later gain the ability. I don't want any nonsense where there's a reason the pops are where they are. Generally done sufficient long-term planning that I don't need pops soldery zone. Can't do it with the resavings until they're uplifted, I guess. But yep. Energy generation. Solar grids and plasma converters gleam across the landscape, tapping stars and storms to power our ascent. That's a poetic way to put it. This adds a... I should get a specimen that goes right in the storage. I was looking through, it looks like the devs tried to balance the number of specimens in each category, but they didn't realize some events are so much more common. So while there's a roughly equal number of each type, xenogeology ones just are way more common to actually run across. What I could do, though... Why is there a... Does this mean I could move it over to Stack Wonders? There's a line connecting here. Can they have multiple types? Probably not. It's probably just a graphical thing. But like this should be in a Stack Wonder. Whether... A Stack Wonder, the Warning Monolith, or maybe a Galactic History. Firstly, Crew Manifest. It's probably Stack Wonder. I mean, some of the stuff just doesn't make sense for what it's been assigned. A lot of it, like consumer goods, energy, alloys, consumer goods. I mean, these are useful things at scale. I don't know if I sold anything at scale before. Hope I didn't. What I should do with them actually is trade them to vassals so they can use them. And they'll build their own grand archives. Maybe I stupidly sold some before and didn't think of that. I don't know. Lesson learned for a future game, maybe. Things can go wrong. Heck, I might not even get the shipyard. Radical because I waited too long. Mistakes be made. Things go wrong. If I beat myself up over them, I'll never progress in the game. Just try and do better next time. 5 years on that. 10 on that. 14, 7, 5. Just looking for things that might be changing anytime soon. So war propaganda or encounter with an apparently hostile civilization sparked widespread preparations for war. Yep. Preparations for war. Makes sense. It's a description of why the ship's build speed is increased. Encounter a new pre-FTL. We have detected the presence of a pre-space age civilization on TH2. They're in an early industrial age with electricity and internal combustion engines gradually coming into widespread use. We should consider building observation posts about the world to study them more closely. I mean, they're not near my borders. Unfortunately, none of the pre-FTLs are. They are. Should probably look at the specialist stratum more to see their ethos. Wait, are they all militarist? I haven't seen anyone who's not. It must be fanatic militarist spiritualist. Oh, they could end up as a fanatic purifier. Empire, that's annoying. But they're industrious, very strong, natural engineers, repugnant, and they have psychological infertility. So when they go to war, they have fewer pops. Manufacturers. These early industrial manufacturers toil away in factories, which can now be operated day and night thanks to recent advances in electricity. And indeed probably are being bureaucrat. Many early industrial and post-industrialist societies are governed by an ever-expanding class of civil servants. Well, expanding partly to keep up with pop growth. Anyways, sorry, commentary there is probably not too interesting. I'm saying, but finish this. Go add to planet capacity, the master of nature thing. It's getting so you should be able to turn one of these into something else. Maybe some civilian industry, maybe there's a ton of things. Chemical plant. They do lots of manufacturing, light industry. It could be worth it here. Moats galore. I'm producing lots of strategic resources. This damn air conditioner is so loud. I hate this. No setting to set to only use oil fan mode or to even on that setting, it's exceedingly obnoxiously loud. Because it's a cheap ass air conditioner, clearly. Pretty old design. Or it's one with massive, it's probably cheap for the amount of like BTU cooling and has way more BTU cooling than such a small room needs. So it may actually not be the cheapest. Something that was less powerful might have been cheaper. Probably partly just a lack of attention to detail. A less powerful one would have been quieter and potentially cost less to run and costs less to buy. And it could have actually just been a more expensive for that level B2 one that was quieter relative to its... I've seen people don't. Strand scientist. Eh. Well, I know what that's about. Oh, no, really, it's a scientist who you can recruit if you don't ask any questions or investigate, and you'll find he murdered people on a planet. Hold on. Oh, no. I was actually mixing this up with a different, kind of similar event chain where you find a scientist on like an Arctic, well, frozen planet research station. This is the one that was from an asteroid. Yeah, still. I know from the name even, it's a chance to get another scientist, and I have too many scientists. Probably don't want to turn this one down. Only because it might be worth replacing others, but might want to delay it. See what happens. Let some of these others gain a level, maybe. And then, you know, the experience can be less of an issue later. So, leave that on the back burner. As this, after all, scientists leveling up adds to their upkeep. I don't remember which scientist it is. Also, they might have level up when they were about to level up, and that would be kind of a waste of XP. But also, I mean, I just don't want to read more stuff. I need to get to move along with this. Just a few reasons. Well, yeah, the Orders Commander, I didn't even read the description of this. This fortified outpost is where knights collaborate with their vassal in the search for the toxic god. Our subjects are expected to rise with resources and data to support the Order's work. They gain stability in defense armies, which, if they're running and yielding, that may also be some immunity from defense armies. I gain naval capacity, unity, and tech, and quest progress. Very nice. And truly superb holding, even though it hurts loyalty. And I'll balance that with an aid agency. Someday I'll be able to renegotiate the agreement again and maybe get a satellite campus or another aid agency on another world. For now, 2 on their capital, that's something. Oh. Should definitely next month start another trade deal with these guys. Give it a day for them to queue stuff up, I guess. Sometimes they queue up stuff. They spend resources. I don't want to offer them deal for more hours than they can, you know, do. Then they cancel. Well, they're broke. Are they broke? It's not even like I'm doing a monthly trade with them for anything. They're stockpiling all these consumer goods. Well, they do produce them efficiently. And each consumer good is like... just to see. That's 7. Right, minus 7. I don't know, they might undervalue monthly energy, but then again... does this work? And they produce efficiently. freaking moth. Hold on. Sorry about that. I was trying to squish the moth. But of course, the landlord who put the freaking, you know, because the overpowered air conditioner in, I mean, it came with the units of furnished apartment. Couldn't even bother properly seal around it. It's so many things that show lack of attention. Apparently, also used to never clean. And I've taken one of the tenants cleaning stuff regularly and give him a. It's like it's a short-term apartment, so it's an Airbnb. So you know, cleaning is expected. And yet it's like he expects a reasonable return on his investment. He's not putting in labor in, like, and what people consider reasonable is better than the stock market. So if they're not putting hardly any work into something, I don't know. We're doing a minimal amount. Why should they be making money hand over fist and at the same time endangering people's ability to survive? I'm not fond of the idea of monetizing housing, to say the least. I mean, there's some value to renting, but, you know, could have it where, you know, maybe like housing cooperatives with a fraction of units that cooperative might rent out, or, you know, government, maybe state-owned corporations. At least it's the money, whatever in excess of cost is paid in rent, would go into, you know, the government. But there's a lot of ways things could be done. But I am a socialist. I am not a fan of heavily privatizing basic human necessities like housing and food. At least some things probably should be state controlled, or even workers' cooperatives bears the risk of the workers screwing over everyone else. Of course, you have workers' cooperatives where wages are so much higher that people can actually afford the really high prices on stuff, generally speaking, if they're working and afford to pay enough taxes that they won't whine if they will afford not whine about, you know, paying enough taxes. Have this decent disability system isn't full of holes, intentionally full of holes, by the way. All right. Loyalty is part of this. Share Empire data. I don't care at all if they have Empire data. Could give them a specimen to hold on to, since I can't possibly display this many right now. This should say cult pendant instead of a freaking kangaroo pendant. Of course, they might always sell a specimen. I don't know. Seem to be low on a lot of things, so I should probably actually give them some resources if I can spare anything. Maybe some alloys back. Give them some now, and they can reestablish monthly trades later. No, because I actually have a huge need of alloys for upgrading starholds. Food. I have some food in storage, but at least that. Trade. I'm just gonna give that to the hive mind because they really like trade. What else? problem. I'm not gonna trade for all consumer goods, actually. Yeah, maybe they'll even do a colony ship somewhere. Actually. There we go. Some food. Some minerals for a bunch of consumer goods. They'll actually hopefully use the minerals and the food small loss to make sure those consumer goods can quickly be most. It's that stupid moth again. It's like even the pattern it flies is probably as annoying as possible.